Travel back in time with a trip inside the Iowa's News Now vault.
And this is really where the film comes together as a final piece of work, a final piece of art.
And this is in the heart of Hollywood, the location where a film born in Iowa is maturing into what writers, directors, and producers hope will be an award-winning picture.
Took the wrong turnover or something.
It's a picture that brought a crew of hundreds to Worthington and other parts of eastern Iowa last July. It brought Iowans together with stars like Richard Gere, Brian Donaghy, and Kevin Anderson for a film about...
I think it's a very small story. I wouldn't say it's a message story. I think it's a very small story about two brothers who learn to deal with their feelings towards each other and their father, and feelings of failure that they lost this farm that their father had really built up.
In the picture, it's this farm in Worthington, a farm chosen as the farm of the year in 1959 when Nikita Khrushchev came to visit. In 1987, it was a Hollywood film crew that came to visit, trying to recreate the Soviet leader's Iowa stop. For many filmmakers, it was a first stop at any farm.
Oh my God, I only have, dogs and cats, and all of a sudden you hear these noises and what is that? It's a pig over there. God.
Surprises were many for many of the West Coast people who worked on and put this film together. But now they are all back home in Hollywood, where I joined them with photographer Gary Edwards.
Credit this to the Cox account.
When a movie makes its way from Iowa to Hollywood, it undergoes changes, sometimes big changes, and most of those happen here.
Here, where hundreds, sometimes thousands of hours are spent meticulously going through every inch of film.
If you think the editing process is something that happens overnight, you're wrong. More than 250,000 feet of film has to be gone through, and that is only a portion of what was actually shot in Iowa.
I'll talk about the editing process and get reaction from one of the film's stars tomorrow night at 10. Sandy Reescraft, Channel 2 News in Hollywood.
Unfortunately, I think most people see a movie being shot in the streets and they think they want to see it on the screen the next day.
But that's not how it works. This is the final stage of making a film called post-production editing. It's a process that began in Iowa last July, ended up in Hollywood, more than 250,000 feet of film shot in Iowa. On this wall is a mass of footage that won't be used at all.
This is your idea.
Actress Helen Hunt, Jennifer in the film, is doing what is called automatic dialogue replacement. She must revoice some of her lines, synchronize them to her mouth movement on the screen. The 24-year-old Hunt has been acting for 15 years. She says this movie will make it.
And I think the way it was cast was just right on the money, so I can't imagine it's not going to be a really special movie.
The sound of waves here along California's southern coastline is rich and warm. It's a sound like many others that can be recreated inside film studios here.
Here, Andy is doing what's called Foley walking. It's adding sound that either wasn't gotten on location, was lost, or just wasn't right for some reason. Andy's adding footstep sounds for the guy on the right. The film company even hired people to recreate the sound of cows not gotten in Iowa. And in one case, someone was hired to do a bull.
We have a bull that breaks his leg. And we have to obviously get somebody in to recreate some of those sounds, a human who specializes in this type of thing, because you can't just go out and start shooting bulls' legs off and cows' legs and whatever and expect them to record to your liking.
Though Farm of the Year is being put together out here in Los Angeles, its premiere will be in Cedar Rapids sometime in May or June. Then it will be sent around the world.
It'll be sent around the world, but no one knows under what name yet.
Farm of the Year, I don't know. Farm of the Year. Who'd want to see Farm of the Year? I don't know.
Must have took the wrong turnover or something.
Sandy Reescraft, Channel 2 News, Hollywood.
We were in a small town to start with, and there was nothing there. It was just rolling fields and silos. It was incredibly beautiful.
Iowa was pretty much what I expected it to be in terms of miles and miles and miles of cornfields. I don't know if I expected Cedar Rapids to be as thriving a metropolis as I found it to be, with good places to eat and sophisticated people.
But this is Hollywood, a far cry from the peaceful place called Iowa, where these movie makers spent the past summer working on Miles from Home. Many of them were born and raised in Los Angeles and had never been on a farm before.
I was actually shocked that a movie crew comes in and everybody was so nice and sort of letting us turn their lives upside down and even letting us live in their homes. And it's a hard life. I'm not used to waking up that early. The quiet would drive me crazy after about 4 days.
You know, when the rat race of the, the city business gets to be, too much, sometimes, I think about going someplace that's totally different, totally removed from movies and the superficiality of movies.
Los Angeles and its people are quite unlike the cities and people in Iowa. It sort of makes you wonder how that might affect a movie shot in Iowa, but put together out here.
Thanks for coming. I didn't know what else to call.
I would just ask the people of Iowa just to bear with some of the farming things that we're working on, because you do, in a certain, they might sit there and think, well, why'd they do that? That's just dumb.
We had consultants who were Iowa farmers, and we wanted to make sure that we didn't make any silly mistakes, and we don't think we have.
Some of it'll seem real, and some of it, listen, when you make a movie, it's fiction. So we've taken great liberties with fact to make it be interesting.
Sandy Riesgraff, Channel 2 News, Hollywood.
Because in the past, the film industry had been locked into California, and you and I, as the audience, had gone to the films and seen over and over again the same locations within the magic circle, the 40-mile radius of Los Angeles. And we've gotten tired of that.
Tired enough that Jarvis says the welcome mat is out for movie makers to come to Iowa, and they are responding, knocking down Iowa's door. Last year alone, Harvest Films, which brought Miles from Home here, was one of 3,500 film companies expressing interest in Iowa. If that interest materializes, it amounts to money.
For instance, with the Motion Picture Farm of the Year, that brought in a tremendous amount of dollars in the form of monies the company spent, also the tourism dollars coming into the area, and also in the dollars that were spent on the local hires.
Paul Kurta is a producer for Miles from Home. He says film production is a big buck business. Paul admits he left a few dollars behind in Iowa.
It's like conventions, a lot of people come and they stay at hotels and eat food and go out and rent cars and buy supplies, and I don't know. I guess we left several $1 million behind in Iowa, and we're pleased to do it. We got everything that we needed there, and a lot of cooperation to boot.
This is where it all comes together. It's called Burbank Studios, the final stop for Miles from Home before it hits theaters around the country. That will be sometime in May or June. The film's premiere will be in Cedar Rapids. And what should Iowans expect?
I think that people will just be left with a general feeling of a well-told story with likable characters and very, very fine performances, really acted quite well.
Great movie, a great movie.
Come sun up, we'll take turns driving loads down to the co-op in town, okay?
Sandy Riesgraff, Channel 2 News,
splendid.
Hollywood.
I'll be here as long as you need me.